Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Welcome to Sri Radha Govinda Temple. Let's chant the most favorite bhajan of Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari Gopi Jan Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jan Vallabha Girivaradhari Jashodanandan Vraj Jan Ranjan Jashodanandan Vraj Jan Ranjan Jamuna Tira Vanchari Yamuna Tira Vanchari Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari Jaya Radha Madhava Nikunjbihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रसाद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की, भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की, अंतर मायापुर धाम की, वृंदावन धाम की, तुलसी देवी की, भक्ति देवी की, समावेद भक्त वृंद की, गौ प्रेमानंदे, all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to assembled devotees, all glorious to Guru and Gaurang. Om Ajnana-timirandhyasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam yena bhutare Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham dadati svapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utpadakamaram Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathānvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Lita Shri Vishakhanvitam Usya. हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते. तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय. वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text number 7. Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kinnana kushalam bruyam Gata Shrishu Gurveshvaham. Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kimnuna kushalam bruyam Gata Shrishu Gurveshvaham. Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kinnuna kushalam bruyam Gata Shri Shru Gurveshvaham. Anybody would like to read? Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kimnuna kushalam bruyam Gata Shri Shru Gurveshvaham. Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kimnuna kushalam bruyam Gata Shri Shru Gurveshvaham. Krishnadyumani nimloche Gineshva jagarenaha Kimnuna kushalam bruyam Gata Shri Shru Gurveshvaham. Bhauchava Krishna Dyumani Nimloche Gineshwa Jagarenaha Kim Nuna Kushalam Bruyam Gata Shri Shugrueshwam Krishna Dyumani Nimloche Ganeshva Jagarenaha Kim Nuna Kushalam Bruyam Jagashri Shugureshwaham. Mataji? So, let's go to the word-to-word translation. Uddhava Uvacha. Shri Uddhava said, Krishna Dyumani, the Krishna son, Nimloche, having sat, Girneshu, being swallowed, Ajagarena, by the great snake, Ha, in the past, Kim, is what, Nu, else, Naha, our, Kushalam, welfare, Bruyam, may I say, Gata, gone away, Srishu Gruheshu, in the house, Aham, I. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Sri Uddhava said, my dear Vidura, the Son of the world, Lord Krishna, has sat, and our house has now been swallowed by the great snake of time. What can I say to you about our welfare? Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The disappearance of Krishna's son may be explained as follows. According to the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Vidura was struck with a great sorrow when he got the hint of annihilation of great Yadu dynasty, as well as of his own family, the Kuru dynasty. Uddhava could understand the grief of Vidura, and therefore he first of all wanted to sympathize with him by saying that after the sunset, everyone is in darkness. Since the entire world has merged in the darkness of grief, neither Vidura nor Uddhava nor anyone else could be happy. Uddhava was as much aggrieved as Vidura, and there was nothing further to be said about their welfare. The comparison of Krishna to the sun is very appropriate. As soon as the sun set, darkness automatically appears. But the darkness experienced by common man does not affect the sun itself either at the time of sunrise or of the sunset. Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are exactly like that of sun. He appears and disappears in innumerable universes, and as long as he is present in particular universe, there is all transcendental light in that universe. But the universe from which he passes away is put into darkness. His pastimes, however, are everlasting. The Lord is always present in some universe, just as the sun is present in either the eastern or western hemisphere. The sun is always present either in India or in America. But when the sun is present in India, the America land is in darkness. And when the sun is present in America, the Indian hemisphere is in darkness. As the sun appears in the morning and gradually rises to the meridian and then again sets in one hemisphere while simultaneously rising in the other. So, Lord Krishna's disappearance in one universe and the beginning of his different pastimes in another take place simultaneously. As soon as one pastime is finished here, it is manifested in another universe, and thus is a Nitya Lila or eternal pastimes are going on without ending. As the sunrise takes place once in 24 hours, similarly, pastimes of Lord Krishna take place in a universe once in a daytime of Brahma, the account of which is given in Bhagavad Gita as 4,300,000,000 solar years. But wherever the Lord is present, all his different pastimes as described in the revealed scriptures take place at regular intervals. As at sunset the snakes become powerful, thieves are encouraged, ghosts become active, the lotus becomes disfigured, and the Chakravaki laments. So, with the disappearance of Lord Krishna, the atheists feel enlivened and the devotees become sorry. So, this is a very wonderful pastimes. We started talking about it, what happened and how happened and everything. So it is compared with the sun. The sun is rising and sun is also setting. And for all of us, that is something that doesn't give us any kind of surprise. But here we are not talking about the regular sun, which is rising and which is setting. We are talking about Krishna. And like I said, Krishna's own son, Samba, was dressed up as a woman, and he was cursed by the sage, saying, Janaishyati vo mandaha musalam kulnashanam. When he was asked, what do you think, is it going to be a son or daughter? So sage looks at him and he says, Janishyati vo mandaha musalam kulnashanam. Whatever is going to take birth is going to destroy all your dynasty. And that is why, that particular mushal was actually crushed on the order of the king, and they threw it in the ocean and grew up as a grass. And Yadu family members, they started fighting and they killed one another. A little 1-inch piece of it was swallowed by a fish, and when the hunter found that, the fisherman, he opened the stomach of the fish, took out that and made an arrow and started hunting, and that was the end of the Krishna's pastimes. So, it is compared that Krishna's janma or the birth was like a sunrise, and now since Krishna has left the material world, it is like a sunset. In Bhagavad Gita, they say that janma karma cha me divyam vyome veti tattvataha. So, we should not be comparing our birth and our death, or normally what we know as birth and death cannot apply those terms to Krishna. So far as you are concerned, I am concerned, every other living being is concerned. Scripture says, Janmana jayate shudro, karmana dvijam uchyate. Janmana jayate shudro. Everyone is born as a Shudra, and then of course he's taking the initiation as a spiritual master and is practicing. And after that, Dvijam Uchyate, then he becomes a Brahmin. But we cannot call about same thing about Krishna, that he was born as a Shudra and then he went to Sandipani Muni. Yes, all those teaching and preaching and everything required, but still that exactly doesn't apply, and we cannot call him that he was a Shudra just like you and me. So, same thing happens with when it comes to when he is finishing his pastimes, same thing is applied. Long time back to Yudhishthira, Narad Rishi is trying to warn that now it's about time that Lord Sri Krishna himself may wrap up his pastimes. And so we should be also wrapping up along with Krishna's schedule. Now this was a kind of a prediction or whatever you call. But it says here that Lord Krishna descends personally to vanquish asuras like Kamsa, Jarasandha and Shishupala. And during the reign of Maharaja Yudhishthira, almost all these asuras were killed by Lord. Now he was awaiting the annihilation of his own dynasty called the Yadu Vansh, who appeared by his will in this world. He wanted to take them away before his own departure to his eternal abode. So Narada, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation of Yadu dynasty, but indirectly gave a hint to the king and his brothers to await till the incident happened and Lord departed. So, this is a very wonderful statement made by Narad Rishi. Nishpaditam deva krutyam avesham pratikshate. Means Krishna himself is waiting and very eager to wrap up his pastimes. So whatever happened here with the curse and all that is happened according to his own will. That's what we have to learn. Another thing is that many times one thing is not very clear about, I saw Maharaj was here, is he, or he's gone? Chandrasekhar Maharaj, I saw him coming, I think. All right. So, the reason I'm thinking of him is because if any one of you know about more about this, even I would like to know, that Srimad Bhagavatam says that any activity Krishna is doing, it is not all the time Krishna. For example, the statement is made when the Asuras is killed, they said Krishna never kills anyone. It is the Vasudeva who kills. So what it is, that these are his expansions. Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyuman and Aniruddha. So, whatever Krishna wants to do that, those four expansions are always with Krishna. And wherever Krishna appears or disappears, those four, expansions, they come and act accordingly. So, even Srila Prabhupada is also says, the reason I discuss is because in a Bhagavad Gita, there is no any mention of this Sankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyuman, Vasudeva, all that. Yes, all the verses are there, but which verse applies to Pradyuman or Sankarshan or Vasudeva, that is still a matter of study for people like us. Here, Prabhupada only explains that, as we have discussed many times, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, has many plenary expansions, and each and every one of them, although equally powerful, executes different functions. So you see, there are 4 expansions, but their role in Krishna's life or in his pastimes, they are all different because of different potencies that they carry. In Bhagavad Gita, there are different statements by Lord, and each of these statements is meant for different plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions. So, there are 700 verses, and wherever there is a Krishna makes any kind of statement or is doing any kind of activity or he is mentioning about his own possible action, that time he is using one of his expansions and he is applying. So, it is very important to know for us that different functions in these statements is meant for different plenary portions or portions of the plenary portions. And he makes many statements in the 700 verses. For example, Shri Krishna, the Lord, says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam dharmasya tadatmyanam srujamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So he said this, but in Bhagavad Gita you do not find whether there was Vasudeva or there was Narayana, Aniruddha, Pradyuman or Sankarsana, which expansions were involved in this particular verse. Another verse is saying, if I cease to work, then all humanity would be misdirected. I would also be cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all sentient beings. There is another. So you have to compare the first 2 statements with this statement. First one was, whenever and wherever there is decline in religion practice, O descendant of Bharata, and predominant rise of a religion, at that time I descend myself. That is one. The second one was, to deliver the faithful, to annihilate the miscreant, and also to re-establish principles of occupational duty, I appear in every age. So you have to actually focus on the verse and analyze the whole sentence that what is talking about. To deliver the faithful, that's the one action, one kind of activity. Okay, I am delivering, I am protecting, I am saving. And then it also says I am annihilating. So that is a second part or second kind of activity, where you cannot apply the one expansion for both those activities. One expansion is used for one activity, the another expansion is used for other activity. I read Srimad Bhagavatam not from generally write the same point, but because I am a Karmakandi Brahman, which is Prabhupada never had appreciated, but once in a while we have to do that. For example, last night we performed this marriage ceremony. So somebody will have to do that. So I do that. But I read this book from Karmakand point of view. And there are hundreds and thousands of rituals printed right on these pages. For example, Vidyarthi labate vidyan. Tomorrow the couple may have a son and they say we want him to have education. So who will give the education? So there is a way to achieve education through Srimad Bhagavatam. Dhanarthi labate dhanam. They say, well, I would like to send him to Harvard University, but no money. So dhanarthi labate dhanam. How to achieve money? That is also given here. Everything is there. We may not be concerned with that, we may not appreciate that, but from one point of view, all those things are there. But you cannot invoke person in charge of the knowledge. The Krishna has 6 opulences: Shri, Shakti, Kirti, Kanti, Gnana, Vairagya. Right? Now, if you want money and you invoke somebody who has a knowledge, what's the use of it? He says, I can give you knowledge, but I'm so sorry. For money, you have to go there. You are knocking the wrong door. So that is karma kand. So you have to invoke the other potency of Krishna, where you get the money, you get the renunciation, you get the fame. So these are the very important things that he said, that to deliver the faithful and to annihilate the miscreants, 2 different activities and 2 different expansions are being used. And here he says, if I should cease to work, then all humanity would be misdirected. I would also be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all sentient beings. And then Srila Prabhupada give one more example, where Krishna says, whatever action a great man performs, common man will follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So you see from different statements, you can see that sometimes he is using one potency and sometimes some other. And then Prabhupada explains, all the above statements by Lord apply to different plenary portions of Lord, namely his expansions such as Sankarshana, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Narayana, right? Is listing this. Why he is listing is because there is a scripture called Narada Pancharatra. And in Narada Pancharatra, just like we had this Jagannath festival, where you see the deity, on the extreme right you see Jagannathji, in the middle you see Subhadraji, and on the left side you see Baldevji, right? So here, this is quadruple, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anuradha. There are 4 of them. So Narad Pancharatra defines that on the extreme right there is Pradyumna. Then on his right, the second one is Sankarshan. Then the third one is Vasudeva. And on the extreme left, the last person is Aniruddha. So these are the arrangement. And then it talks about how to worship them, what you gain out of it, what are those different expansions of Krishna and their potencies, and where to apply that. That's why sometimes they call Krishna never kills anybody. It's the Vasudeva who kills. So Krishna doesn't have to do anything. He's there in Vrindavan, wherever he is. But he sends his expansion and then they do that. And it's very interesting. Later on, Prabhupada says that it's not the same Krishna who is in Vrindavan. The Krishna in Vrindavan is not the same Krishna is in Mathura. And one who is in Mathura is not in Dwarka. Now, I remember when I was a child, I had a lot of argument because I knew that it's the same Krishna we are talking about. It's not that it is, like in regular life there is a, for example, me, Nikunjbihari Pr, right? Now somebody says Nikunjbihari Pr, I get phone calls. Now we used to have few days before Nikunjbihari Pr right here in this temple. And when I pick up the phone, they say, oh, no, not you, Nikunjbihari. We're talking about another Nikunjbihari. So, in case of Krishna, when Prabhupada said it's not the same Krishna, he means it's the same Krishna. But still, it's not like one Nikunjbihari Das and other Nikunjbihari Das. It is all the same person. So, we'll come to that. And this is very, very interesting. The verse that we read was very simple, but you have to go back and forth sometimes to understand the same verse that Prabhupada has ever talked about this particular verse before and try to make us understand that. So, here all the above statements by Lord apply to different plenary portions of Lord, namely his expansion such as Sankarsana, Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha and Narayana. These are all he himself in different transcendental expansions. He himself. And still Lord as Sri Krishna functions in different sphere of transcendental exchange with different grades of devotees. And yet Lord Krishna as he is appears once every 24 hours of Brahma's time or after a lapse of 8,640,000,000 solar years in each and every universe, and all his transcendental pastimes are displayed in each and every universe in routine spool. But in that routine spool, the functions of Lord Krishna, Lord Vasudeva, etc., are complex problems for the layman, because we have a hard time understanding Krishna, or to speak of going in the details about Narayana, right? Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva, and their portions and portions and portions, that is unlimited. Vishnu Sahasranama is 1001 names, and they all have different potency. So, details are there, but for a layman to go into this will be really crazy. So, Lord Vasudeva, etc. are complex problems for the layman. There is no difference between the Lord's self and the Lord's transcendental body. The expansion execute differentiate activities. When the Lord, however, appears in his person as Lord Sri Krishna, his other plenary portions also join in him by his inconceivable potency called Yoga Maya. So, by the help of Yoga Maya, he is coming and bringing these expansions along with him and using them as required for different activities. And thus the Lord of Vrindavan is different from the Lord Krishna of Mathura. Prabhupada says that. And that's what, when I say my childhood, some Kathakar was talking about this and people say, oh, there are also so many Krishna, so many Krishna. What are you talking? What so many Krishna? He says, in the Vrindavan it was a different Krishna. In Mathura, what you read is a different Krishna. There is one Krishna in Dwarka also, and one, no. I said, no, that's not that. It's the same Krishna. But because of his pastimes, it's just presenting himself as different Krishna, So, and thus the Lord Krishna of Vrindavan is different from the Lord Krishna of Mathura or the Lord Krishna of Dwarka. The Virat Rupa of Lord Krishna is also different from him. By his inconceivable potency, the Virat Rupa exhibited on battlefield of Kurukshetra is material conception of his form. It was just a material form. Therefore, it should be understood that when Lord Krishna was apparently killed by the bow and arrow of the hunter, the Lord left his so-called material body in the material world. So what you saw, that the hunter shot the arrow and Krishna got killed. But Prabhupada is explaining here is that therefore it should be understood that when Lord Krishna was apparently killed by the bow and arrow of the hunter, The Lord left his so-called material body in the material world. The Lord is Kaivalya, and for him there is no difference between matter and spirit, because everything is created from him. Therefore, his quitting one sort of body or accepting another body does not mean that he is like ordinary living being. And this is a very important point. All such activities are simultaneously one and different by his inconceivable potency. So when Maharaj Yudhishthira was lamenting the possibility of his disappearance, it was just in pursuance of custom of lamenting the disappearance of great friend. But factually, the Lord never quits his transcendental body, as is misconceived by less intelligent persons. Such less intelligent persons have been condemned by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita, and they are known as the Mudas. That the Lord left his body means that he left again his plenary portions in the respective dhamas, the transcendent abodes, as he left his Virat Rupa in the material world. So, so far I could understand, I made you understand a little bit, but we are open to the discussion. Anybody, I thought Maharaj was here and he could have guided us, but do you know something about Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva? The questions we can always ask, but I'm just going to put this together because it has a lot to do with the Krishna's departure. Here, the verse that we are reading is so simple verse that is comparing, Uddhava is comparing, and it is very interesting, you know, because this is English, but also go to some original languages which are in Indian language, sometimes beginning with Sanskrit. Also I have heard kathas, also I hear Hindi, Gujarati, all kind of, you know, and they make it very, very interesting. For example, this particular verse in Gujarati, they said, or Hindi, they explain in this way, Char mile, 64 khile, 20 करे कर जोड़, and then he says that हरिजन से हरिजन मिले तो 20 से 7 करोड़. This is how they explain. Char mile, char means 4. Who are those 4? This is when a devotee meets with devotee, what happens? They explain here. When Vidura and Uddhava met, what had happened? Char mile, 2 eyes of Vidura and 2 eyes of Uddhava. These were 4 people met. They considered this 2 as 2 of Vidura and 2 of Uddhava. 64 khile. What is the 64 means 64? Who are those? When you smile, what happens? 32 of your teeth. So 32 teeth of Vidura and 32 teeth of Uddhava, they smile together on the bank of Yamuna. And then 20 करे कर जोड़. This 20 means this 10 fingers of Vidura and the 10 fingers of Uddhava, they pay obeisances, pranam, vandan. So these 20 met again. And then when it says, when Harijan se Harijan mir, when one devotee met other devotee, hase 7 crore. There are 7 crores pores and a hair on individual body. You, mine, everywhere. The scripture counts the number of pores on the body. So 7 crores hair were standing on Vidura's body, and 7 crores of hair were standing on Uddhava's body. So this is how this goes so much in detail, and present it so dramatically that you can't go to another verse anymore, So this is what it is. That whatever we read here so far is just said that, the sun was coming up, in the horizon, and then the same sun was setting. But even a scientist know that, right? The Newton or Archimedes or whatever you read, they know how the earth works. That, like when it rotates and goes around the sun, the part of the earth is covered by light, the part of the earth is covered by, night. And the one who sleeps knows that tomorrow is going to be morning and sun will rise. Oh, beautiful verse is also given in Bhagavatam. Ratrir Gamishyati Bhavishyati Suprabhatam Basvan Udeshasi Hasishyasi Pankajashrihi Itham Vicharati Koshakate Divrepe Ha Hanta Hanta Nalinam Gajujja. A beautiful description of morning. The Ratrir Gamishyati, now the night is gone, right? Bhavishyati Suprabhatam, look, the sun is rising in the horizon. Hasishyasi Pankajashrihi. Pankaj is lotus. All the birds, they open up and as if they are smiling and laughing, the lotus flowers. Beautiful descriptions of morning, beautiful descriptions of night, everything is there. And we can understand that when Krishna, was born, he actually was born in Mathura, but he was taken in house of Nanda Baba, Yashoda. So at that time actually the world came to know that Krishna has appeared, and that's why that whole celebration of Krishna's birth, even Janmashtami we celebrate that way with those kind of excitement. So that's the sun rising, and then when Krishna departed, it was all the sad news for all the devotees, not only for Pandavas, also for Viduras, for Uddhavas and everybody. So it's very easy to understand, but the way Srila Prabhupada here says that Narad Muni, first of all, predicted about wrapping up his pastimes, and then it really happened. And actually, for a devotee, one should understand that there is no matter of lamenting, because just like a sun is never setting, if it's in India night time, then America is having the daytime right now. But then again, after few years, when we see the night, the India will start seeing the daytime. So it's a very clear example. Same thing happens with Krishna, that his pastimes were finished in this material world, but somewhere else in any other planetary system, his pastimes began, and it will stay for some times and it will disappear. So, if somebody wants to put some kind of input by going further, this is the stage I could understand, and so far I could understand what our Prabhupada has said. But anybody wants to, Prabhuji, you know anything about this? Or, yeah, Prabhu. Right. Yes, you are right. You are right. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Something also related to the chapter explanation. It's about Krishna's body. it is said that he left a body, material body.
That's what he says here, yeah.
So what happened
And
to Mari?
there is one scripture which talks about it, and it has something to do with Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri. That particular, which is in Garud Puran point of view, is known as Asthi. When the body is finished, whatever is left over is known as Asthi. And that Asthi, they said, there are videos and there are books, scriptures available, and they put this every 12 years in the body of Jagannath Ji. And I was surprised. I mean, I don't know Prabhupada ever mentioned about that, but you can go to internet and do that. And also, I myself read the scriptures which talks about that material body of Krishna, which was collected by the devotees. And in Jagannath, this body, you know, they have installed it or whatever you call it, and then every 12 years they take it out and they put it back in the new, the wooden deity that they make. And the person who is dealing with that body will die. He will die next day, though, that's it, because that's his job. And I don't know, that's a psychological effect of him, or, you know, the person cannot take it anymore. What happens to it? But the person who does that has to be a very dedicated person to Krishna, and he has the right to deal with that body, and he is putting it in the body of the new deity. So you guys can look into this thing, and they show actually in the videos, and they're showing even that dying devotees, you know. So, but this is something that, you know, like we here, there is a word layman, right? That are complex problems for the layman, and that's where you and me and everybody, we can become layman right here, because the answer is so complex that we need some guidance from Srila Prabhupada or some other senior devotee who actually can guide us in this thing. But your question is very good. I appreciate that, what happened to that material body. And I was following through the scriptures, and it says that's what happened, that you know, naturally, even normally you go to funeral home or something like that, people take that thing and put it in the Ganges water. You know, if someone's beloved died, then what happens? They say you have to collect the asti. Now, once you collect that material body, then you have to go to some holy river and put them in the water, and that way you sanctify or purify. But that's easy, because then once you put it, that's it. I did it for my father, and there is a particular place where you go, and there is a Brahmin who will do little ceremony, and they make you walk in the river, and he says just leave it, and you leave it, you know. It's hard feelings, but you know that this is your father's, you know, leftover body, and it just, the water takes it away. In a fraction of a second, it's dissolved. But Krishna's body was never actually put in the water or anything. It was collected, and it is with Lord Jagannath's body. That's what it says. And every 12 years, they said that they just had the Puri Rath Yatra, and I was watching, and they said, this is nothing, the crowd that you see, not because of pandemic or anything, but the usual record of Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra, when there are 12 years and when there is a new body they appear, and that festival is 4 times bigger than the usual Jagannath Rath Yatra. 4 times. Because now they are bringing the Krishna's body, putting in it, and all that, ritual. People are still more interested in that part of it. So your question is right, that this is there. But we all have to, research and try to find out what exactly it is. But I believe that, material is material, But that does not mean that it is still material. After all, it's Krishna's material body, So, if we understand about the Musal incident, which is like a herb, metallic herb, which can, if you can take it and pierce somebody, can kill somebody. So that kind of herb, actually little 1 inch of piece, the hunter made an arrow out of it, and he shot this body, which is Satchidanand Vigraha for all you and me. This is a Satchidanand Vigraha, full of knowledge, full of bliss, right, eternal. And then when we hear that that kind of body was pierced and Krishna left the material world, it's again a matter of, research, I should say. All right, Natarajan Prabhu, you are very quiet. You should always keep the harmonium with you. Yeah, because you left, and when I entered the room, it sounded so good, so beautiful. There is a Gayatri for that. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Anuruddhana Sankarshanaya Cha. This is a Gayatri mantra, just like we chant Om Bhurbu Asvata Savitanu, like that. They recommend to chant this particular Gayatri, where you can please these expansions. And he says, Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Anuruddhaya Sankarshanaya Cha. So this is what it is. But in the explanation also, they don't talk much about which way they differ from one another. Now, even a grain of sand on a beach, it contains Krishna's potency inside. The elephant have different potency, and the squirrel may have a different potency, the crow may have a different potency, and peacock may have different potency, you know, that kind of. Every living entity, living being, the celestial personalities or whatever you compare, Krishna is all over with different potencies. But primarily his total potency, when it was divided into these 4 parts, which is known as Sankarshana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna and Vasudeva. In Ramayana also there are very specific, very easy to understand, because there were 4 brothers, Ram, Lakshmana, Bharat, Shatrughna. So these 4 personalities are, one is Vasudeva, another is Sankarsana, Lakshmana is Sankarsana, Ram is Vasudeva, and those other 2 are Pradyuman and Aniruddha. And then Aniruddha, and then, you know, they talk about these 4 characters, 4 personalities. The pastimes of Rama are different from pastimes of Lakshmana, and they are different from Bharat, and they are different from Shatrughna. So everything is actually presented in considering those potencies of those 4 personalities, which are the expansion. And Krishna was not there at time. Ramavatar, when you see as a, you know, Krishna is all the time, but still Ramavatar was before the other ones. And that's why in the Ramayana it also appears the same Sankarsana, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Vasudeva. In Ramayana there is beautiful incident that the little boat will carry these personalities, you know, Ram, Sita, Lakshman, to other coast. But the boatman in a previous life was a tortoise, and the tortoise decided to go to Lord Vishnu. So he started swimming all the way in the Kshisagar and reached where the Sankarsana, you know, the snake, he is the Narayana sleeping on a snake, right? So he reached there, and Mother Lakshmi was actually washing his feet, and from his feet the water was dripping, and the tortoise thought that I may be able to catch one drop. So he's opening the mouth, and the Sankarsana, the snake, sees that somebody is there now, some foreigner, right? So he drives him away. So when this pastimes took place, the tortoise was a boatman. And boatman, remember that I went all the way up to Kshisagar, and this particular personality, Lakshman, who is none other than Sankarsana, stopped me drinking a drop of water from Lord's feet. So he asked Rama that I would like to wash your feet and drink. And Rama said, okay, you can do that. So he's bringing the Ganges water, washing Lord Rama's feet, and then he's drinking and he's looking at Lakshman that no, I'm not going to share this with you. This is my Charanamrita. So these are the stories about, but very interesting, very interesting. All right, now shall we do Shrira Vidyajar or what? Is it a time for Bhagavad Prasad? Srimad Bhagavad Bhagavatam ki hai.
Nikunjbihari Pr ki jai.